Taylor Swift has achieved almost everything a person can achieve. She's one of the richest entertainers alive, one of the most powerful celebrities on earth, one of the most recognizable faces in modern history. So why does her story still feel unfinished? Why, after all the records, all the awards, all the success, does so much of her music still sound like someone searching for something? Because the strangest part of Taylor Swift's story isn't how famous she became. It's what fame couldn't give her. And to understand that, you have to understand what happens when the entire world starts watching. Because fame promises everything, but fame always wants more. This isn't the story of how Taylor Swift became famous. It's the story of what happened after she got everything she ever wanted, and why becoming Taylor Swift may have cost more than anyone realized. Before the sold-out stadiums, before the billion-dollar tours, before she became one of the most influential people on earth, Taylor Swift was a teenager obsessed with storytelling. She wasn't the most powerful singer in the room. She wasn't the obvious future superstar. What she had was something different. She understood people. While other artists wrote songs, Taylor wrote emotions. Her music felt less like performance and more like a conversation. Listeners didn't just hear themselves in her lyrics. They felt understood by them. That connection became her superpower. By the time her early country albums started exploding in popularity, fans weren't simply following an artist. They were following a person whose story felt connected to their own. And that's what made her rise different. It wasn't built on spectacle. It was built on trust. But trust creates expectations, and expectations can become a burden, especially when millions of people start expecting you to stay exactly the same. As her career exploded, Taylor did something many artists never successfully accomplish. She reinvented herself. Country became pop. Pop became global domination. Every album felt bigger than the last. Every tour felt larger than the previous one. Every year, her audience expanded. The strategy worked, almost too well, because once you become one of the biggest stars in the world, people stop asking whether you'll succeed. They start demanding perfection. And perfection is a game nobody wins forever. Fame always wants more. More success, more access, more attention, more pieces of you. And eventually, the spotlight becomes impossible to escape. Then came the moment that changed everything. The 2009 MTV Video Music Awards. Taylor Swift had just won an award. She stepped onto the stage, the crowd cheered, and then Kanye West walked onto it. What happened next lasted only seconds, but its impact lasted years. Suddenly, Taylor Swift wasn't just a musician. She became a symbol, a character in a cultural story larger than herself. Millions of people who had never met her began forming opinions about her, choosing sides, building narratives, projecting assumptions. And Taylor learned a lesson that would follow her for the rest of her career. Once the world decides it knows you, controlling your own story becomes nearly impossible. For a while, the success continued. Hit records, sold-out tours, award shows, endless headlines. From the outside, everything looked perfect. But fame was quietly changing the rules. The world no longer just wanted Taylor's music. The world wanted Taylor. Every friendship became content. Every relationship became analysis. Every public appearance became a headline. People who had never spoken to her felt qualified to explain who she was. The person was slowly being replaced by the image. And then the backlash arrived. Fast, loud, relentless. One of the most beloved celebrities in the world suddenly became one of the internet's favorite targets. Criticism spread everywhere. Social media turned hostile. Public opinion shifted. And Taylor faced a realization that changed everything. There was no level of success that could protect her. In fact, the opposite seemed true. The bigger she became, the bigger the target became. Fame always wants a villain. And for a moment, the world decided Taylor Swift would be one. Most celebrities spend their careers running from bad headlines. Taylor Swift turned hers into an album. Reputation wasn't just music, it was a response. Instead of pretending the criticism didn't exist, she confronted it directly. The accusations, the jokes, the headlines, the snakes. She took the version of herself that critics had created and transformed it into something powerful. And that's what made Reputation so important. Not because it repaired her image, but because it revealed a new mindset. Taylor stopped trying to control every narrative. She started surviving them instead. For the first time, it felt like she understood something most celebrities never learn. You can't defeat the spotlight. You can only learn how to live inside it. But even that victory came with a cost. Because while her career kept growing, privacy kept shrinking. Imagine knowing that every time you walk outside, hundreds of cameras might be waiting. Imagine knowing every relationship could become international news. Imagine knowing millions of strangers have opinions about your life before you've even had time to process it yourself. That's the reality Taylor Swift has lived with for years. The world didn't just fall in love with Taylor Swift. It fell in love with access to Taylor Swift. Relationships became public property. Heartbreak became content. Happiness became content. Even silence became content. And that's the contradiction of fame. The more people feel like they know you, the harder it becomes to keep something for yourself. The higher she climbed, the less privacy survived. Then came the Eras Tour, and suddenly Taylor Swift wasn't just a celebrity anymore. She became a phenomenon. The tour generated billions. Cities transformed around it. Hotels filled because of it. Movie theaters played it. Entire economies felt its impact. The Eras Tour didn't feel like a concert. It felt like culture orbiting around a single person. It was the kind of success artists spend entire lifetimes chasing. The ultimate victory, the finish line. Except there was one problem. The finish line never arrived. The pressure remained. The expectations remained. The attention remained. Because fame always wants more. No matter how much you achieve, it asks for something else. And that's the truth hidden beneath Taylor Swift's story. Most people believe success solves problems. What they don't realize is that success creates new ones. Taylor Swift achieved nearly everything an entertainer can achieve: money, influence, legacy, power. Yet none of those things eliminated criticism. None eliminated pressure. None eliminated loneliness. Success made Taylor Swift famous. Fame made Taylor Swift vulnerable. So how do you become the most famous woman in the world without losing yourself? Maybe you don't defeat the pressure. Maybe you survive it. Because through every controversy, every reinvention, every headline, every expectation, Taylor kept returning to the same thing that made people care in the first place: the stories, the songwriting, the search for meaning hidden inside ordinary emotions. Maybe that's why millions still connect with her music, not because Taylor Swift feels larger than life, but because underneath the empire, the headlines, and the stadiums, she still sounds human. Most people think Taylor Swift's story is about becoming famous. It's not. It's about surviving fame, because eventually success stopped being the goal. Protecting herself became the goal. And maybe that's the real cost of becoming Taylor Swift. Not the criticism, not the scrutiny, not the endless attention. It's spending your entire life trying to protect the person you were before the world started watching. Fame gave Taylor Swift everything she ever dreamed of. But the greatest challenge wasn't becoming Taylor Swift. It was remaining Taylor. Because after everything fame gave her, she's still searching for the same thing everyone else is: a place where she can simply be herself. The difference is, for Taylor Swift, almost nobody ever stops watching.